What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it will lead to real truth. Don't look back to yesterday.
Now there are answers.
Tomorrow's on
Welcome
the way.
to Live Prayer.
It's waiting there.
And welcome to Live Prayer. I'm Bill Keller. Thanks for being with me on this Thursday night. Good to have you on board. I pray that you've had a good day today. That's a quick 23-hour turnaround, wasn't it? We've got a lot to get to tonight. As a matter of fact, I thought tonight was going to be kind of a more focused program on just a couple issues that I really want to get to tonight. But as the last hour unfolded, as often happens, there's just been a lot of things popping that I do want to talk to you about and make you aware of. So we've got a lot of ground to cover, as we do most nights. Again, you're watching Live Prayer. We're here live and in living color every Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Of course, you can always catch the program on our archives. Just go to our website, www.liveprayer.com. Let me get that up on the screen for you. Boom, there it is. And on our website, there's a media tab at the top of the homepage. Click on that, Live Prayer TV. Gives you all the various platforms we're on. Facebook, Twitter, Roku, and YouTube, Apple, Amazon, all the major streaming platforms. And again, I just want to reiterate to our Facebook friends, I know you guys are so faithful and we're doing everything we can to work around their issues, because again, on all of our other platforms, it's fine. If you ever catch a night where the programs, it's usually the audio that's garbled a little bit on Facebook. And it looks like the best our text can come up with, it looks like, because we don't pay Facebook for advertising and any of that, we're relegated on some low-tier platform that they have, which has a minimal amount of bandwidth. Don't forget, bandwidth is like the gas that runs your car. It's the fuel that allows a jet plane to fly all over the place. It's the power that makes websites work, and it's the power that allows 1,000 people, 10,000 people to watch a simultaneous video stream, bandwidth. So that's the best they've been able to come up with. It makes sense because, again, our program is perfect everywhere else where we have pretty much an unlimited bandwidth resource. We only pay for what we use, but and again, welcome to our Roku viewers. I love you guys. My goodness, man, that's a powerful platform. I'm so glad we're on Roku. Obviously, if you're a Roku user, you know how to use it. Just search under the programs for Live Prayer show. We have our own 24-hour channel that we are going to be filling up very quickly as we get into the next months of 2019. That's something we're already working on. But everything on liveprayer.com is free. Nothing to sell you. No books, tapes, resources. No cruises that you have to pay to come on. No trips to wherever people get you to pay money to go on trips to. What else? No conferences. No pieces of the cross that you can buy. But just great content. 20 years of Frontlines unique content, all available for free at our website, liveprayer.com. Under the resources, of course, is our daily devotional that I've been writing every morning for nearly 20 years now. It goes to people that sign up for it in their email so that they don't have to come to the website. They just go through their email in the normal course of their day, and usually by about 7 in the morning, for the most part, they're all delivered. And it's about a 3 to 5 minute read. So if you don't get that, sign up to get it. But again, that's liveprayer.com. Please check it all out. Let me just mention some. I've been, you guys are so good. I get emails from people all the time. Will you put your address up so we can send you a gift? And it's something I might remember to do once every 2 weeks. Well, this is that once in 2 weeks. There's our address. If you want to jot it down, we've increased our monthly operational budget with the TV program by 5,000. Now, 5,000 a month for the TV program is virtually nothing compared to what it used to cost us, and we're already we've probably got about half of the viewing audience we've had in the past, and we've only been on a little over a month. So as we get in the next few months go by and more people find out about the program, and obviously your word of mouth will help make that happen. But so it technically, the 35 to 40,000 used to cost us every month for the TV program now is at 5. Now that'll go up as the audience increases, but for right now, that 5,000 will cover us for a good period. I think we're probably going to be good on this, on the 5,000 figure. Again, that's bandwidth. That's the bandwidth we need to push the audio and video out to the various platforms we're on. So it's about $1,000 a week. I mean, it's really compared to what it used to cost us nothing. And we're going to be reaching probably, I think by the end of the year, probably at least 5-fold what we used to reach. Could be as high as 7 to 10-fold. And even at that point, the 5,000 may creep up to 7 or 8. But that first 5,000 gives us a lot of bandwidth to get a lot of people. So pray about what you can do to help us. Of course, you can always go to the website, liveprayer.com, click on the donate link, and you can use a major credit card there, fully secure. Or just jot down my address on the screen, 6660 46th Avenue North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33709, and pray about what God may be calling you to do to help us. Okay, let's say a word of prayer. Let me get started because I do have a lot of ground to cover tonight on a lot of different issues. Father, thank you for our friends tonight. I know as we come to this program each night, we all come bringing various needs and concerns and situations and circumstances. But Lord, you already know everything. So we commit all that to you tonight. Lord, take all of our concern away for this hour. Take all of our the things that we're worried about. Let those feelings of worry be set to the side for this hour. And let us just embrace you over these next 60 minutes. Be thankful for our relationship with you. Thankful that you love us so much that you sent Jesus to die for our sins so we could be redeemed. Thank you for meeting our needs each day. We can always come up with a big list of things that we need, but Lord, let us be just as diligent in the list of things we are thankful for, and we truly are tonight. So bless this time. Bless each one that is part of this program tonight. Minister to the needs of your people, and we thank you for it now in the mighty and matchless name of Jesus. Amen and amen. All right, let's get going. I wanted to start tonight with a topic that I seem to be circling around to quite a bit, and it ends up. I guess the main noteworthy element of this topic is suicide. And if you missed the night I did devoted the whole program to suicide, it's probably 4 or 5 Friday nights ago. I believe it's a Friday night. Anyway, if you go to our archives, and to find the archives again, just go to liveprayer.com, click on the media link, Live Prayer TV show, and you'll find our YouTube where all of our archives are at. Now we have old programs on Facebook. Some of those aren't very good though, because those are nights Facebook's platform wasn't responding well. Twitter has again perfect recordings of all of our programs on our Twitter page. And of course YouTube is probably our best place to go get the archives. So check out our YouTube page for the old programs, and you can just scroll down because the date of every program's on there, and the main topic is usually on every one. There was one night a few Fridays ago I did on suicide. And I remember in that program I was talking about the fact that suicide rates are at a 50-year high right now. The big spike in suicides. And we've kind of been picking this topic off profession by profession. I know one of the original times I've spoke about this. Of course, suicide is something that, I've dealt with in my daily devotionals over the 20 years of the Live Prayer Daily Devotional. In the 15 years we've had the TV program, I know I've dealt with this issue many times because sadly it's a very real issue in our society. It's one that probably most people have had some involvement in your family, maybe with a friend, someone that your family knew, but everybody pretty much has been touched by this sad response to hopelessness, which is when people take their own life. But since we've been back on the, since we relaunched the program simply on the platforms that we stream on, and of course we kicked that off on Thanksgiving, I've talked to you a couple times about suicide in relationship to certain professions. I remember the first one was the military, and I kept hearing this number of 22 active or veterans were killing themselves a day. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't believe the number. At best, I figured it might have been a number over just a very short period of time, but it's a real number. Sad to say, it's a very consistent number, and I think most of it, as we've spoke before, goes back to the fact that you just can't put people into these horrendous war situations and then all of a sudden send them home and expect them to just get back into the routine of life, like they were away at summer camp. And from dealing with people from World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam extensively, Iraq, Afghanistan, people who end up in those war zones are seeing things and experiencing things, doing things that it's hard to imagine a human being being involved in, and it's just so outside of the norm. Now, obviously, professional military people, that's their job, so to speak, but it's still an incredible, just nonstop barrage of things that most people probably should never have to deal with in their life. So I guess my main criticism of the armed forces has always been, when these guys are coming home, whether it's on a furlough or whether they're finished with their service, I've been an advocate for at least a 30-day, at a minimum, probably 90 days is more realistic, of a kind of like a rehab facility. In other words, before you go home to your family, before you get back into society, before you start trying to reintegrate yourself into day-to-day society, a minimum of 30, but I think probably 90 days is more realistic, of kind of a rehab type of an environment where you can start decompressing and working through some of the horrors that you possibly lived through before you're now expected to just go back and plug right in like nothing happened. But then we've talked, of course, about law enforcement. Law enforcement has traditionally been a profession with a high percentage of divorce rate, or divorce too, yeah. But the suicide rate, as far as professions go, law enforcement's always been one of the top ones. And just recently, earlier this week, I was reading a study done on the suicide rate amongst doctors. Now, that's kind of an interesting profession because, of course, doctors are there to be instruments of God to heal people. You know, they take the Hippocratic oaths. Life is what they're about, yet an alarming number of doctors are committing suicide. And clergy. Clergy is another profession that has a higher than average suicide rate. And probably in all of these professions and any other profession that a person has, one of the key contributors has been what they refer to as burnout. And I've always said, in speaking to younger pastors and younger people in the ministry, probably the greatest mistake I made 25 years ago was not taking enough time off in terms of just getting away from everything for even a few days. And I mean, I'm the last person that should actually be talking about this, because even to this day, I'm so guilty of not doing this. And some people, though, they're just wired, to be, I guess, what you would call workaholics. I know in my old life, before I recommitted my life to the Lord and committed my life to the ministry 25 years ago, back in the 10 years I was running from God as fast as I could, I was in the business world making a lot of money. And I worked 7 days a week. Never thought anything of it. So, in all honesty, when I got in the ministry, that's how I knew to work. You get up every morning, you go to work. And it's not healthy, because we've got several places in the Gospels that spoke about, Jesus just going off to be by himself for a few days. And, it's funny. I got many friends that love golf and everything, and sometimes they'll sit there and lament how, they just, can't seem to get any better and whatever. And I say, listen, okay, look at Tiger Woods as an example. Obviously was birthed with just incredible God-given talent and skill and physicality, okay? Yet, even though he's, without arguing who's the best golfer of all time, I still think it's probably Nicklaus, but that may be a little bit of Ohio State bias. But, I mean, no doubt Tiger Woods is in probably the top three, Nicklaus, maybe Palmer, Woods, maybe Bobby Jones. But he's among a handful of the greatest golfers of all time. And then you look at his work regiment: 1,000 balls a day, all of the gym work he does on a daily basis. But I look at my friends. I said, "Do you hit 1,000 balls?" 1,000 balls. I said, "Well, think about this. Tiger Woods, presumably one of the greatest golfers the game has ever known. He still has to go hit 1,000 balls a day and practice, all these hours a day on top of whatever physical workout regimen he's got in his schedule. And if he has to do that, what about, I try not to diminish my friend's talents, but I said, how much more should you have to hit? Maybe 10,000 balls. And all I'm saying is, if Jesus had to go away for a few days, probably everybody needs to go away for a few days, just to be blunt with you. So we've got that example. But burnout really comes from people that just don't know how to take their foot off the gas pedal, and they just go and go and go and go and go. And at some point, they're just done. To the point they can't even function. To the point that they just crater. And you throw in a high energy, high adrenaline type of a profession that requires you to be like on edge. I mean, I couldn't even imagine a doctor that performs heart surgery or any kind of surgery. The level of aptitude you've got to be at to perform at your best. And obviously it's the same way in the military and law enforcement, because they often find themselves literally in life and death situations where letting their guard down for a second could be the difference between living and dying. For clergy, it's not that as much as it is just taking on the problems of an endless number of people. You know, when I think about it, you know, Live Prayer consistently, and has for over a decade now, receives somewhere in the neighborhood of 40,000 emails a day for prayer. 40,000. Now, in the scheme of things, that's not much, but I mean, this is just one internet ministry. And every one of those situations, and you know, I jokingly talk about the fact that people usually don't email us just to tell us, you know, how great everything is and how wonderful things are, and they're smelling roses, and they're you know, frolicking through the petunia patch. You know, they usually don't come to us until it's like DEFCON 5 and everything's blowing up or has blown up, and they're just trying to figure out how to hold on and at some point put things back together. So very stressful. So, you know, in most professions, to be blunt with you, I don't care whether you're bagging groceries at a Publix grocery store or, you know, working in a retail. I mean, most professions, all professions to some extent, have a level of stress that accompanies whatever that work may be. And the burnout comes from never relieving that stress, never taking your foot off the gas long enough to just get away from it and let the stress go so you can freshen up and go back at it again. So I'm not surprised that in a society that drum. Now, Europe is interesting because over in Europe, they've got the opposite problem. You know, so much of the people in Europe are working either in government professions or in private sector professions where they're working a 4-day week, 6-hour day work day, 2 months of vacation every year. And I know a lot of people mock them for their, what they consider a lack of a work ethic. And I know I couldn't live like that, but they do, and that's how they've pretty much been raised and learned how to live in that kind of a work environment. So probably the happy medium is somewhere between our 60, 70, 80-hour stress-filled weeks and the more nonchalant 30-hour work weeks of Europe with all the free time and vacation time. But I guess all I can tell you tonight, and again, I'm the last person that probably should even be bringing this word of counsel to you. Yeah, it's one of those, you know, do as I say, not as I do type situations. You got to find those pockets. You really do. You've got to find those pockets where you've got even 24 hours, preferably 48 hours, that you can just unplug and just let that stress meter, go from bouncing around in the red to just dying all the way down. And because otherwise you will burn out. You will. And we're just not built to be under those high stress situations without any breaks, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, because at some point something breaks, and it's usually, it's probably like driving a car down a mountain with no brakes. I don't care how well you navigate that road. I don't care how good of a driver you are. Obviously, you've got to be tensed up and focused every second, because one wrong move could mean the end. But you got to figure out how to, pull that car into a ditch or something, or stop it, because you just cannot continue to live under that high stress without taking some breaks, because you'll crack up eventually. And this is how a lot of people get into bondages. They look to escape. And again, this is where a lot of people get in trouble with alcohol, with drugs, with gambling, with promiscuous sex. In other words, they're trying to take the pressure off of their day in and day out life, and they find these escape routes, but these escape routes end up damaging them and destroying them probably faster than the stress they're trying to escape from. And society is very good at offering people some really bad options as far as entertainment goes. Gambling went from a stigma years ago to now it's just considered entertainment. When you go to Vegas, you're expected to lose $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever, because you're just there for the entertainment. People get involved in illicit affairs just to shift their mind into another direction, but they're just jumping out of one frying pan into the other. So we have to be very cognizant of how we, wind down, how we do rest, how we do escape. So I'll be praying for you, because I don't have it. And listen, I already know some of the emails I'm going to get from tonight's program. Well, you don't understand, Bill. I got no choice. I have to work these 80. I have to work these 2 jobs, and I have to work my 60-hour job, and I have to work that other 20-hour job every week just to make it. I understand where people get themselves into a place where resting doesn't seem to be an option. But even when you're in those situations, you've got to pray, ask God for some guidance, ask God for some wisdom. The Bible talks about how if you ask God for wisdom, He'll give it to you what? Abundantly. Ask God for wisdom, because you don't want to get to that burnout stage, because that's when people start doing really stupid things. That's when they do get totally lost in some sort of an addiction. So to escape their burnout, they end up in a very unhealthy addiction that probably destroys them quicker than the burnout would have. You know what I'm saying? So got to really pray and got to really seek God. And again, this is why God's plan for the family is so critical, because when you're in that family situation, you've got a spouse that you can talk to and relax with and find some shared interests that you can use to, turn it off for a while. Kids obviously give you a chance. That can be just as much of a burnout situation, anything. But again, in a healthy situation, that can be a little bit of a timeout. So just be praying about it, and I will. Listen, pray for Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Now, I will, without any hesitation, tell you I despise this old woman for her support of perverting God's holy institution of marriage. I despise this woman for her support of slaughtering babies. I don't know where she is at, if she's anywhere, as far as I don't know where she's at, if she's anywhere in terms of faith, but just pray for her. I mean, she's obviously in some very serious health complications. I mean, she survived pancreatic cancer from years ago, and again, because my father died from that back in '74, they have not advanced very far in these last 45 years as far as being able to treat pancreatic cancer. It's normally pretty much a death sentence. I know it was for my father, and it still is for the most part today. Have been some breakthroughs, but she has survived that. She had some other type of a cancer situation. Apparently, they recently took cancer cells from her lungs, and there's a lot of talk that she's got lung cancer, and which is very possible because a lot of times people beat one form of cancer only to have another form pop up years later that the doctors just were never able to even identify back when. So you get a lot of, you're in remission, you got a clean bill of health, yet there's still stuff going on you don't know about till it pops up years later. And of course, one of the big issues for her, I think she's 85 if I'm not mistaken, one of her big issues too is an issue for a lot of people who are elderly that are dealing with certain issues. They end up getting pneumonia. And so many of them die from the pneumonia because their bodies just, aren't equipped to fight it off. So just pray for her. I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the news about her and, from more of a political standpoint. But she's still somebody Jesus died for. And she's obviously a highly intelligent woman. I have to believe in her years on this earth, with the intelligence that she has, she had to be approached or spoken to, possibly by, I know she was very close to what was his name? The Supreme Court justice that just died. He was smothered at that ranch in Texas. Scalia, Judge Scalia, Anton Scalia. She was very close to him. I know Scalia was a very big-time believer, so maybe he shared Christ with her. I don't know. But I know Jesus died for her, and it's easier to look at her as an evil person just for her support of gay marriage and abortion. But you still have to look at people how Jesus did, because we're all evil, and nobody's evil is not as bad as another person's evil. Evil's evil. And it's only the blood of Christ that can wash that evil away. So just say a prayer for her. And I know that's what God would have us do. Twitter. I remember sharing this with you. It probably was one of those kind of just gloss over things that I talked to you about one night that may not have, most people may not have even paid much attention to, and I understand that. But they've got this bizarre policy at Twitter now that, and I think I know the reasoning behind it, and I'll get to that in a second. But Pakistan, like all Muslim countries, have these blasphemy laws In other words, just to speak negatively about the false religion of Islam, to speak negatively about the pedophile, polygamous, murdering founder of Islam, Muhammad, is considered blasphemy and is considered worthy of death. Well, Twitter, for some unknown reason, has made Pakistani blasphemy laws part of their terms of service. Woman I met years ago, back in 2010, when I was in New York quite a bit that year, fighting against the Ground Zero Mosque, and in the process of putting an evangelistic center there. And for people who've been around live prayer, I did, I think, 10 Sundays of evangelistic centers at the Marriott, right next to Ground Zero in the Grand Ballroom. Did that for 10 Sundays as a prelude to opening an evangelistic center right next to the proposed Ground Zero Victory Mosque, which we never followed through with it at the end, because the Muslim that was pushing the whole thing, a guy named Imam Faisal Rauf, it was a scam. He raised tens of millions of dollars for this Victory Mosque and had no intention of ever putting a mosque there, and absconded with the money. But in the process, I had met and got to know a little bit Pam Geller. Pam Geller is a highly charged anti-Muslim advocate. She is the one that put together that draw a picture of Muhammad deal down in Grapevine, Texas, years ago, where they killed a couple Muslims that had driven from Arizona to break into this exhibition hall and kill kill people for blaspheming the Prophet Muhammad. And subsequently, she's got a couple fatwas on her head. I'm no stranger to that, because I've had, I think, 8 to 10 over my years. But apparently she was told by Twitter that she had to talk to Twitter's legal counsel, because they were in the process of suspending her Twitter account for violation of their terms, and specifically violating Pakistani blasphemy laws. I mean, her response was, I think, very legitimate. I'm an American. You're an American company. We have the First Amendment. Why would violating Pakistani's blasphemy laws have anything to do with me or you, for that fact? Now, if I was living in Pakistan and this was an issue, that would be a whole different story. I mean, it's bizarre. Now, here's my take on this, and I'm pretty sure that I'm on the money, even though nobody will ever admit it. This is simply a way for Twitter to basically get rid of anybody that has anything negative to say about Islam. Simple as that. Now, you can sit there and mock, demean, make fun of, intimidate, call pretty much any name in the book you want to a Christian, and they're fine with that. You can blaspheme Christ all day long, no problem. You can call God the great, the Sky Daddy, and the great Sky Daddy, and all these blasphemous ways to refer to God, our Creator. No problem with that. But don't speak ill of Islam, a false religious / political ideology that's basically about domination, terror, hate, and death. That's Islam, my friend. Always has been, and for the last 1,400 years, and that's what they're still about today. So I have no doubt that that's ultimately the deal with this, but it's bizarre. Now, Twitter's a private company. I mean, if they want to enforce Pakistani Islamic blasphemy laws, they have every right to. They're a private company. I mean, it's their servers. If they don't want that specific content on their servers, they have every right to. But we're going to get into tomorrow night a little more in depth these social media giants. I've got another hit I'm going to make in a second on YouTube. But, and again, I've never been an advocate for censoring speech, no matter how distasteful I may find it to be. I've never been a big antitrust advocate. I understand antitrust. I understand why it's necessary. You had the trust busters, Roosevelt back in the early 1900s, and those were probably needed situations to break up the conglomerates like Standard Oil and the great steel empires, Carnegie, and the big banks. But these social media companies, I don't see as... This is part of what I was talking about when I spoke weeks ago. And this is another program. If you didn't see it, you need to find it. It's in the archives. When I talked about the robots and the artificial intelligence, and how one day you're going to have robot churches with robot pastors, or a pastor form that's been obviously inputted with the artificial intelligence that quote unquote pastor possesses. And because people are being groomed to accept that as the older generations die out and the new generation, as these new generations start to age, this is what they've known their whole life. And the ability to control thought, the ability to influence actions. And I think that's probably the most dangerous issue when you're talking about these big tech giants, whether it be Facebook or Google or YouTube or Twitter. Their ability to influence thought, and even more concerning, their ability to influence people's actions. And I know a lot of that's been primarily surrounding the politics, but it's also been an issue with religion, primarily Christians, of course. And and listen, I hear some people, well, you know what? We'll just go start our own Facebook. We'll go start our own Google. That's fine. You can do that. But here's the problem. They've got billions of people that they're reaching every day. I mean, it's unlikely that a rival to Facebook, a rival to Twitter, a rival to YouTube, a rival to Google is ever going to have that kind of reach. That's the problem. Sure, we're not going to use Twitter anymore. Well, you know what? Or we're not going to use Facebook anymore. Well, you know what? Like them or love them or hate them or whatever, they've still got a couple billion people plugged in there. And you should be able to reach that audience. But they're homogenizing speech and directing thought amongst these masses that they have some control over, whether people would admit it or not. It's very concerning, but it's also a very relevant look into how you could easily come, especially with the past two generations not being in church, right? when you've got a faithless society to bring faith into, a focused faith ideology into those type of platforms, you could overnight have more people following that, whatever that faith ideology is, than all the Christians, Muslims, Jews in the world put together. Therein lies what I see is a real concern that there's no real answer to be honest with you. And this is the kind of thing that may happen whether we like it or not. Probably will happen whether we like it or not. And why all the more Christians have to be that much more vocal, because we're dying out. We're not being replaced because nobody wants to pay the price to evangelize. Just being blunt with you. Media, more mockery of Karen Pence. It's increasing, of course. Christian. She's teaching some art class at a private Christian school where they have, morality clause, a belief clause, which they have every right to have as a private institution. But the fact that it includes not accepting homosexuality, but viewing homosexuality as God views it, a sin, not acknowledging marriage as anything but a man and a woman. Just the blowback on Karen right now is immense. And again, this is the culture lashing out, doing everything they can to, if nothing else, intimidate Christians into silence. And they've done such a good job. And as much as I may seem to rail against just day in and day out Christians and their responsibility in the workplace, in the marketplace, to be a witness for Christ, and that is true, that's Bible, okay? I guess my greatest anger is reserved for these large Christian ministries that purposely do everything possible to stay out of the marketplace. I mean, they're taking in tens of millions of dollars a year. They could put forth a great witness for Christ, but they won't do it because they've amassed these tens of millions of dollars every year by preaching to the choir, by setting up their own little Christian subculture of Christian TV and Christian radio and all the ministries, and we'll just keep the big bad wolf out, and we'll just have a good little jump up for Jesus rally here, and everybody can amen, and everybody be happy, and everybody be safe, and the people putting it on will make a lot of money. And they don't want to go out in the marketplace because not only is there going to be great hostility, but people start asking questions. I mean, you want people to give you $20 and $50, you're buying your wife a $300,000 car, or you're promising people that their kids will be healed if they'll just send you $1,000, or why are you trying to raise $50 million for a private jet? That's why they don't go in the marketplace. It's nothing but protecting their greed and their covetousness and their yearning for the temporal things of this world. That's why they don't witness to a lost world. It's disgusting. People are going to have to answer that. I have no doubt about that. They talk about how blessed they are and everything, but you know what? The world knows Jim and Tammy Baker just because they're so infamous. They'll swagger a little bit, not as much. They know him because of his perversion. They knew who Billy Graham was, of course. But all these other, supposed big-time Christian ministry, Rod Parsley, Benny Hinn a little bit, but Benny and Copeland, Joyce Meyer, they don't know who these people are. Why should they? These major ministries stay as far away from, TDJ. They stay as far away from the world as they possibly can. They got a nice gig going. They don't want anything to upset it. I get emails sometimes. Bill, you always seem to be struggling for money every month and just barely getting. Hey, listen, that's fine. I understand it. That's one of the prices you pay when you go to the market. One of the reasons they don't go to the marketplace, not only do they want to protect their business, but, it's not profitable. Why would I go into a secular environment when I go on TBN where 99% of the people that watch me are already Christians? I can run my games and preach my prosperity pimp perversions, and people will buy it and send me lots of money. I'm serious. I know most of these guys and know a lot of people involved in all these things. I know how this deal works. Say, well, Bill, why don't you do this? Why don't you do me? You could ring. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to bring the gospel to people, primarily people that are never going to hear the gospel otherwise. So what Live Prayer has been about for 20 years. So what this program's been about for 15 years. In the first 4 or 5 years of the TV program, back in 2003, 4 or 5, I was getting calls every day from TBN and all the Christian, Inspiration Network and all the Christian TV networks. Hey, why don't you put your program over here? I said, no, thank you. I said, no, I said, I wouldn't put my program on your network if you gave me the airtime. Of course, they don't give you the airtime. That's how they make their money, selling these ministries. Time. I said, if you gave me the time, I wouldn't allow my program on your network. Number one, I'm not here to preach to the choir. Number two, I don't want to be around any of those people that you have on your network. Those people are a bigger stumbling block for somebody like me trying to reach a lost world. I'm being blunt now. Those people are a bigger stumbling block than any heathen you can name. At least a heathen's only doing what a heathen knows how to do. Everybody understands that. And so you've got this shrinking, Speaking of shrinking, Lifeway, that's probably the last major, of course, that's part of Southern Baptist denomination, plugged into them, but the Lifeway Christian stores, they're closing a bunch more. They're almost gone now. Everybody used to have a Christian bookstore, especially if you lived in a place like Nashville or Atlanta. And there's still a few around, but they're going quick. They can't compete. Number one, they've got a dwindling marketplace because less and less people are going to church and want that kind of material. And then, of course, the internet has put a lot of these bricks and mortars type businesses, even the Christian ones, out of business. So we're getting less and less Christian material into the marketplace because these stores that provided a lot of it, they're going out of business. YouTube admitted that they have been purposely tampering with abortion searches so that pro-life videos are primarily described and labeled as misinformation. Misinformation. And promoting, abortion videos that glorify killing babies. At least they're starting to be honest. I gotta give them credit for that. One thing to never forget about this immigration thing is you hear all the back and forth. One of the biggest problems with this immigration, there is an incredible number of these illegals that commit sexual crimes against children. And, it's not hard to understand. They're here illegally. They don't have a lot of money. They don't speak much English, if at all. So it's not very easy for them to go out and get into a normal adult relationship. So they go out and they abuse children because they're vulnerable. And I don't think that gets enough, because if you look at the amount of sex crimes committed by illegals, rape and sex crimes against children are huge, totally out of proportion in terms of percentages. And they just don't get enough. It doesn't get enough acknowledgement in the press that this is another big issue. Okay, fine. So your 7-year-old girl wasn't murdered, but she was sexually abused 20 times by an illegal before he got caught. So she may not be dead, but she's scarred for life. Who knows how if ever she's going to heal. Short of Christ, I don't see that as possible. So these kids that have been scarred like that, they grow up. A lot of them end up being prostitutes and junkies and things like that. So in essence, even though they didn't get killed, they're still dead in a lot of ways. And yet, you've got politicians out there that could care less. It's just purely political. And all of these people that have their lives either taken or destroyed by people who have no business being in this country, they're just collateral damage. And listen, I've been talking to this program all week about praying for these government workers that are on furlough, not getting their checks. I've got people on my wife's side that are in that position. So, I understand it. Contractors that contract with the government, they're not technically government workers. So even though the government workers, they'll get made whole at some point, the contractor, lots of pain going on. But for purely political reasons, I watch them parade these people with their stories and their sad stories, and they're real. I'm not minimizing their pain. I'm not minimizing the problems that they've got. But they don't want to talk about the fact that for the inconvenience and temporary, problems and issues some of these people may face, government's going to reopen at some point. They're going to get all their money. But while they're parading these people, and they don't want to talk about the victims of people that are here in this country illegally. And they're not getting back pay, and they're not getting made whole at some point. They've either had their lives taken from them or tremendously scarred and destroyed in many cases. So it's a real difficult issue that is just really hurting this country. And I just pray that some wisdom will bubble up and we can get this whole thing taken care of. But you've got a political faction out there. They don't want anything to do with legitimate control over the immigration issue, because for them it's votes, and votes take precedent over people's lives. That's sad. All right, listen, if you watch the program tonight, you never made a decision for Jesus, pray with me now. Will you? Dear Lord, I come to you tonight a sinner. Lord, I confess my sins, ask your forgiveness, because I believe tonight in my heart, and I confess tonight with my mouth that Jesus Christ is my Lord, my Savior, my Redeemer. From this day forward, I will live for you, Lord. Use me for your glory. And I thank you for it now in Jesus' name. If you prayed with me, if you meant it, the Bible says you're saved, not because of the words, because of your faith and God's grace. Ephesians 2:8-9. Have a book for you. My email address is on the screen. Jot it down. Send me an email. Let me know you made that commitment. I'll get the book out to you. It won't cost you anything. I'll pay the postage. If you need prayer for anything, please just let me know. Email me. We'll pray for you, okay? Love and care about you so much. You have a great night tonight. And we will see you back here in 23 short hours to close the week out, right? Amen. God bless you. Have a great night.
What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for